Thank you, Haley. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules today to attend this session. My name is Bharti Meisuria. I'm the practice lead for management consulting and development here at BAASS. And today we will talk about the BAASS Bridge and how we can help you facilitate Sage Intacct integration. So welcome, and I'll get started. I'll go ahead and turn off my camera so that you can have full screen and get started. So the first thing I want to share with you is that Sage Intacct has got very well established and the foundation of APIs or application program interfaces. And what that means is that they have facilitated or enabled partners like us implement, build integrations with Sage Intacct very efficiently. So as we start, we got lots of requests for integrations from our various clients. And what we did was we consolidated all the requests and we created an engine called BAASS Bridge, which is an internal product that we created. And all it does really is helps our client integrate different systems for data to flow in and out of Sage Intacct. And before we did that, obviously, at BAASS, we have a practice for building custom integrations and customizations. So all of those developers were trained by the publisher, in this case, Sage Intacct. And we took the time to understand the APIs, which like I mentioned, are very well designed and robust. And we then started working on different add-ons, including the BAASS Bridge for integrations. We've also developed other customizations for clients on Sage Intacct. So coming back to the BAASS Bridge, it's basically an engine that allows our clients to use it as an integration engine to pull and push data from Sage Intacct. So in this case, whether you're running another application in the cloud or locally on one of your servers or many, you're able to use a single engine, that's the BAASS Bridge, and you're able to connect to all of those different applications and either pull data to go into Sage Intacct in the cloud, or you're able to pull data from your Sage Intacct from the cloud into your other applications. So that really is what BAASS Bridge facilitates. So in an example, let's say you're running a very specialized customer billing system and you have it on your local server in your offices, and you're running your Sage Intacct for financials. You will have your customer data in both systems, and you will have your billing done in your customer billing system. So when you want to make sure the systems are synced, we would help you put the BAASS Bridge, and what it'll do is you can enter the customer in your Sage Intacct, and BAASS Bridge will monitor any new customers, any changes, and update your billing system that is sitting locally in your office somewhere on your server. Also, after your billing cycle is completed on your system, you're able to send back your revenue data back into Sage Intacct because that's your main financial system, and you need that for your financial reporting on revenue. You're able to send back data into Intacct. So that's just one example of how you would utilize the BAASS Bridge. Another example is, let's say you're running ADP or Ceridian, which is really a system in the cloud. What we've done for clients is we've facilitated with BAASS Bridge to pull payroll journal entries from your cloud-based system, in this case, an example being ADP or Ceridian, into your Sage Intacct. So just to summarize, whether you have other systems in the cloud or another place, either on your local server or somewhere in a data center, we are able to use the BAASS Bridge to pull and push data from other systems in and out of Sage Intacct. Here, what I have is just an example of one of the integrations that we've created with BAASS Bridge with Shopify. So this is a configuration screen where we would specify the credentials, which are encrypted and secured for Shopify connection. we would put in the credentials for your Sage Intacct, again, secured and encrypted, and any other settings that would be required for this integration to work. The next step would be to define any data mapping. And what that means is, in Shopify, you may be specifying the country as CA, but in Sage Intacct, you have the country set up as Canada. So how do you make sure that the data in your Shopify system translates correctly into Sage Intacct? And that's where we facilitate with the BAASS Bridge the data mapping process. Therefore, you don't have to go through the struggles of making sure that the two systems have the same exact values for your data. You could have different values, and our mapping tables will facilitate the transfer of the data with ease without you having to synchronize the systems. In here, I'm showing you an example of the coding for country codes and province codes, also payment type. So, you have your banks set up in Shopify different than in your Sage Intacct. You're able to map those. Here's another example for your inventory locations as well. So when you want to implement BAASS Bridge for integration, you do not have to worry about the fact that the two systems have data set up differently. We'll help you do the data mapping such as this, so that the data coming in translates correctly before it's written into Sage Intacct. With BAASS Bridge, you're able to schedule your integration. So once you've made the connections to your systems, you've defined your mapping, and then you can schedule your integration to say, I want to bring my customers from Sage Intacct to my billing application every night, at 10 p.m. For whatever reason you want to select that time. You configure that, and then you simply let it run, and each time it runs, it will, the schedule will run, and if there are any errors, it'll notify by sending an email to a designated email account and say, the customer sync was not complete because the province code was empty in your source system, or something of that sort. Whatever validations that you have set up, BAASS Bridge will capture those and send out an email. But just to summarize, we have scheduling capabilities. So you define once and then you let it run, and BAASS Bridge will sync data on scheduled time intervals. We also have what's called an on-demand process. So you've synced your customers every night at 10 p.m. However, it's month end and you want to make sure that all of your billing information is reflected into your Sage Intacct at that time before you generate your financial reports from Sage Intacct. At that time, instead of waiting until 10 o'clock, you're able to run an on-demand process to say, I don't want to wait until 10 p.m. I just want to go ahead and sync now so that when I generate my financials out of Sage Intacct, they are most updated reports. So we provide both the on-demand as well as scheduling capabilities with BAASS Bridge. When you run the on-demand function, the errors are generated right away. So you're able to see if the sync was successful, or if there are any errors, you will see them right away. Just like in the schedule process, the error logs will be emailed out. Here I have an example, and I made reference to this earlier, the integration from Shopify to Sage Intacct. So let's say you are running Shopify and you have it in the cloud and you're running Sage Intacct, and you implement BAASS Bridge to sync your sales orders and you schedule it every night, right? So anytime somebody goes into Shopify and enters a new order, as you work through your Sage Intacct, you'll see them coming in because the BAASS Bridge is running in the background and it's doing the sync as per your scheduled times. With Shopify, for example, we've built multiple data integrations. We bring customers, we bring sales orders, we bring payments and refunds, shipments and invoices, and also inventory. And we've created integration both ways, and depending on the client needs. For some clients, we bring most of the information from Shopify into Sage Intacct, with the exception of inventory. Inventory is tracked in Sage Intacct, and then we update Shopify and the location in terms of the quantities on hand and so forth. We've also used BAASS Bridge for integration to Amazon, and I'm just showing you in this example, we don't necessarily have to have direct connection to your standard systems or other business applications. In this case, we're also able to work with downloaded data such as Excel, CSV, or any other. So what I talked so far was exchange of data from Sage Intacct to any other system or other system into Sage Intacct. And that, in a nutshell, is what the BAASS Bridge does. We've also extended and added additional functions to this engine, and one of them is to actually be able to download your data from Sage Intacct into any other database that you're hosting locally or in the cloud. So what we do is we configure to establish a secured connection in the tool to Sage Intacct, and then we let you select what do you want to download. So let's say you just want to download your customers' data because once you download, you want to put it into your business intelligence systems and create a data warehouse, for example. So you're able to say, I want to download all of my customers' data and just save it locally so that I can use it for other purposes. You're able to do that. So you can select a set of data, or you're able to download everything that you have on Sage Intacct onto another platform. You're able to download the data on another local server or another server in the cloud, such as Amazon, or if you have signed up for any other hosted server, you're able to point to that server and download your Sage Intacct data on that server. You're able to schedule the download. So in my previous example, if you wanted to download just the customer data and maybe all the transactions tied to your customers and you want it on daily basis, you're able to schedule that. And then behind the scenes, the download or the backup will run at scheduled times. What you're also able to do is you're able to generate reports from the downloaded data and connect with any other data that you may have for reporting purposes. So in this example, I'm showing you, this is how you would actually select. So what I've done here is I've given a name, and I'm just simply calling it backup. This is my backup configuration. And I'm saying that I want to do a backup of Sage Intacct. And if you see down below where it says objects, it basically lists what type of data do you want to back up. And you're able to select everything, or you're able to select specific set of data. You're able to build multiple backup types. So again, I'll give you an example. You may want to download your customer and transactions on more frequent basis, such as daily, but you may want to just download your GL data and the transactions associated with it maybe once a month, because you don't anticipate your financials to change. Well, they change, but you can accommodate the difference for at least a month versus something more dynamic like customers. So the point is you're able to still make multiple configuration sets for your data backups. You can have up to 10, and all those 10 run at different times. So you could say my customer data is going to be downloaded every day. My GL accounts will be downloaded every once a week. My projects will be downloaded every hour, right? So that way you are able to list many backup types, and you are able to schedule these backup types at different time intervals. Here I have a screen that shows you the backup history. So I scheduled my backups, and I in my previous screen, I said, I want a backup. I want everything that's in Sage Intacct backed up. And I specified my parameters. And now when I see my backup history at the scheduled time intervals, I will see the history of everything being backed up. And now these backups are on the server wherever I chose them to be. It may be my local SQL server. And I'm just showing you some examples here. Even though Sage Intacct is a cloud-based systems, they have fantastic APIs, and therefore we are able to optimize the download so well that this backup only took about 48 minutes. This took about 1 hour. This was probably a complete backup. As part of this functionality, we also have configuration. So You may be wanting to bring your data locally and back up more frequently. However, you only want to maybe have 10 sets of active backups. That's because you don't want to use up the disk space. So you're able to configure our application to say, I just want to maintain my last 10 backups. So it'll automatically delete any older backups for you. You don't have to manually delete them. However, you do have the option to manually delete them as well. In this screen, I'm showing you that if I expand my backup, it's showing me the different data sets that I have downloaded from Sage Intacct, and it's actually showing me how many records I have, which is, a bit informative, because if I'm looking at my yesterday's backup and I go, oh, I have 150 customers, and then I look at today and I see I have 165, I know that I have 15 new customers in Sage Intacct. So it's nice statistics. But here's the best part. Once you have downloaded the data from Sage Intacct to any other local databases, you're able to use that data to generate reports. So you can say, I want to use my invoice data and combine it with any other data that I have on my local server, and I'm going to generate a combined report. And you can do that with any data set that you've downloaded from Sage Intacct. Here I'm showing you an example of the report that I've generated from my backup. So I used one of the backups and I said, I just want to see a list of customers from my backup, because from my previous snapshot. And as you can see, I have an Excel-like tool here that shows me the details from my backup. So just to summarize, today's session was to help you understand that you have the capability to push data into Sage Intacct, pull data from Sage Intacct. You can do both combined using a single engine. And you're also able to use the same engine to do data backups. So you can pull selected or all of the Sage Intacct data down somewhere else so that you can just have a local backup, or you're able to use that data that you've downloaded for reporting purposes. So that's all I wanted to cover as part of this session. Haley, I'll open it up for any questions that the audience may have.
Well, for starters, thank you so much, Bharti. We did get a few questions. One of the questions we have is, can we do Sage Intacct backups and store the data on our servers?
And I'm guessing that on your servers, meaning the servers, you may be having them in your offices, and the answer is yes, because with the configuration, we are able to tell the backup function, once the downloaded data is available, just put it in this location. As long as we have credentials to that server, you're able to put the data in that server. So the answer is definitely yes. It's a matter of configuring the destination.
And a follow-up for that is, if we were to stop using Sage Intacct, will the data remain on our server until we erase it?
Yes, so our application does have the ability to automatically delete. However, if you say do not delete and leave the data as long as I want, until I actually manually delete them, then the data will remain on that server and will not be deleted, even if you discontinue or disconnect from Sage Intacct.
Okay. Another question is, can you integrate Sage Intacct with our company website?
Yes, in fact, we've done that for many of our other Sage Intacct clients. You're able to connect to your website, and most clients use it for downloading like sales orders, because they facilitate their customers to go onto their website and place online orders. And we've been able to pull that data into Sage Intacct as sales orders using the functionality that I described. So yes, that's very possible.
Another one is, can you import XML files using BAASS Bridge?
Yes, we can. I talked about using Excel, CSV files, direct connection, but yes, we can accommodate any other types such as XML files. So we have done that with another client, and we have that capability to do that, download data from XML files.
Another question is, uh, if I wanted to bridge a specific application that you don't have a bridge for right now, is there a way to do that with my Sage Intacct? I think what they're asking is, can they create a custom bridge?
The answer is yes. We have a few projects where we have created some very custom integrations. So the answer is yes. Again, I'll go back to my earlier reference that because Sage Intacct APIs are so well built, we have some great functionality to implement these integrations in a very short time. So yes, we can build any type of custom integration.
We did also have a question that came in that I did answer in the chat with the attendee, but if anybody else has questions about Sage Intacct and Sage CRM and if it's possible to integrate them, there is a full session about that integration on track one following this one session. Just wanted to give everybody a heads up about that one. Is there any other questions? Give everybody a second to type. And Bharti, if they want to learn more about integrations with Sage Intacct and other things that we have in the BAASS marketplace, is there a specific spot that you'd like clients to look into or reach out to?
Yes, please. So there are multiple ways of getting to know. You can visit our website, go to Marketplace and put in your inquiry, and you can, type in detailed notes and we'll assess and we'll get back to you with your query specific information back as to how we can help you. You're able to connect with me directly or your account manager. Yeah, so feel free to reach out anyhow you can, and we'll be happy to work through your questions with you.
Perfect. I don't see any more questions coming in at this time, so I would like to thank you, Bharti, so much for presenting today and talking to us about the BAASS Bridge and the integration with Sage Intacct.
Thank you very much, Haley, and thank you to all attendees. Have a great rest of the day.
We will be taking about 15-minute break. We will be rejoining at 2:50. The next session that is happening on this track here is Nexonia Solutions for Sage Intacct. And as I mentioned on track one, there is going to be a session regarding the integration for Salesforce and Sage CRM with Sage Intacct. So thank you so much, Bharti, and we'll see you guys all back at 2:50.
Thank you all.